too loud.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Fix that.
First person ever to keep people out.
That might have been purposeful. Guys, we've been talking about at World's End all week. And we're so grateful to be able to kind of wrap this study up this week. I know y'all learned a lot of good things. We talked about several different things. We talked about the fact, first of all, that we are at the end of the world. It could be for us individually. It could be for us as a world. You know, the Bible talks about in 2 Timothy chapter 3 that at the end that men will wax worse and worse. And in Romans chapter 1, he describes some of the despicable things that men do. He talks about, for instance, there at the end of the chapter there, he says, being filled with all unrighteousness, 29, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, envy, full of envy, murder, debates, deceitful, malignity, whispers, backbiters, haters of God, proud, despiteful, boasters, inventors of evil things. Listen to this one. I thought this was history. Right in the middle of all that despicable stuff, what does he say?
Disobedient to parents.
Can you believe that? And then he says, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things, which by the way, what was included in that?
Disobedient to parents.
Those that commit such things are worthy of death. You know, in the Old Testament, when you did bad things, when you were disobedient to your parents for one of the things, they would drag you out to the edge of the city and stone you to death. Some of y'all wouldn't be here today if we lived in Old Testament days.
I know, I got 3.
I mean, we're all that way though, aren't we? You know, the Bible talks about we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. But he says, worthy of death. You know, we describe the skull and crossbones as being death is near. Just think about the fact that every time you disobey your parents, death is near. And in fact, he says, children, obey your parents alone, for this is right, that your days may be long upon the earth. You know, another way of saying, your life could get cut short. So, you know, we're at world's end. Death is near. The wages of sin is death. It is following us. And we talked about that this week in great detail. And we studied that. And then we talked about what? Seeking the treasure. You know, what do y'all treasure? What's a good treasure?
Well, I think of most of this crowd that we're speaking to tonight. I think when we often think about treasures, we think about those electronics.
Ooh, don't we like our telephones?
We like our phones, we like our tablets, we like our cars, we like our trucks, we like our boats and our homes. And
You know, think about the phone thing. You know, I tell you how bad it is, and I'm guilty as anybody else in this. I leave my phone at home, I panic.
so like you got to turn around and go home.
I feel like I need to go home and get it. I look for the first opportunity. That's scary. That I put that much emphasis on that. But that's how Satan does. He's a deceiver, and he makes us think that, you know, life consists of these things. Of course, Jesus said, a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesses. But we get that idea. We're taught that we got to have the spinner to be somebody. We got to have this to do that. Matter of fact, why did we make the rule that the spinners weren't allowed?
Mitchell Jr. hates spinners.
Jake hates spinners. Why do you hate them?
Well, I saw spinners became, as a teacher, I saw spinners become a social status symbol. They were something that if you didn't have one, you were uncool. And I know everybody here at Taylor Christian Camp is cool. So I wanted everyone to be on the same playing field. I wasn't going to bring my spinner. I don't have one, so I didn't want other people to be cool and me not be cool.
I hear you. And again, I think it's a distraction rather than a ADHD cure-all. It's distracting. You know, if y'all had spinners during the services, would that not be chaotic?
Yes, it would.
I mean, really. Everybody would be looking at everybody else's spinner, because I've got one that does different, you know, when you cut the little switch on and you spin it, it has different patterns it does. Yeah, it's an LED, but it only has it on one of them, so it looks like it's moving up and down, all these different things. And I'm sorry, I was going to use it in illustration, because I was going to pull it out and ask you guys, and I never did find it. Probably a good thing. You know, I asked you what it was, because, you know, very much think about it, and I put a couple of different ones on, showing the different patterns and all that. I mean, it's mesmerizing, but it's distracting. But that's what Satan wants us to do. Now, it doesn't have to be a spinner, it could be a girl or a guy. And I had a girl come to me today and said, "Don't tell, but I like this particular boy." Then tonight she comes back and says, "Would you tell him to talk to me?"
It's confusing at this age.
And, you know, nothing wrong with guys, nothing wrong with girls, but I'll tell you what, guys are dumb. Because guys are dumb. I preached it last Sunday.
Guys are supposed to say amen.
You just don't want me to. But anyway, listen. Whatever it is, your treasure. You know, again, Matthew 6, don't store up for your treasures on earth. Now, cabin number 1. There's some missing treasure. Y'all didn't think I noticed that y'all got the treasure up there, did you? We had treasure in the box. And I use that as an illustration to begin with to show the different things that we seek after in the world. And they saw it and they took it.
They seeked after it. Sought after it, not seek.
They saw after it.
That's a bear.
They saw after it and they took it. And you're saying, how do I know it's cabin number 1?
I didn't tell.
No, he didn't tell. I just know Kevin number 1. Hey, I just know them. Matter of fact, I was amazed that they did as little as they did this week, to be honest with you. Y'all did good this week. But I never did figure out the note. When y'all gonna tell me? Y'all had notes 2 days this week, and I couldn't figure it out. We tried, didn't we?
We did.
We did try.
Wrong destination.
Well, I figured it was down here somewhere.
Wrong destination. Go to another station.
Well, there you go. I should have been one of you and said it. But anyway, we put our treasures in so many different things. Luke chapter 12 and verse 15 says, "And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he has." So we need to be careful. But instead, in Matthew 13, he talks about the parable of the hidden treasure. And I had a video and I lost it somewhere in cyberspace somewhere. But about in Matthew chapter 13, there was a man who was traveling through a field and he found what? Anybody know the story? He found a hidden treasure. Let me read it. It says, "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid. And for the joy over it, he goes and he sells all that he has. And he buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking pearls, who, when he had found that one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it." What he's telling us is, there are some things that are worth more than anything. And it's worth giving everything that you have. And we need to be seeking those things. We need to be seeking, those things first. Jesus says, "Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." And I want to show you the story of a man. This particular man was heir to the Borden fortune. You know what Borden is? Borden is a dairy products. Borden Dairy, they had a cow. Well, he was the heir to the Borden fortune. He was a multi-millionaire. But he decided to do something. Let me tell you this story.
The story of William Borden from Chicago. He completed high school at the start of the 20th century with amazing opportunities to travel the world as a millionaire and heir to his father's successful business. For a year he travelled around the globe, always being touched by the desperate needs of people. In a letter to his parents, he announced his intention to to devote his life to missionary service. He decided to give up his wealth and position and all the advantages that came along with it. In his Bible at this time, he wrote 2 words: no reserves. William Borden enrolled at university in 1905. He helped lead a time of spiritual renewal on the campus. 1,000 of the 1,300 students came to the weekly Bible studies. He also helped start up a ministry to the marginalized. Upon his graduation from Yale University, he turned down the opportunity to be in a successful family business as he persisted in his intention to become a missionary. He spent 2 more years at theology college and then planned a one-way trip to Egypt. He wanted to learn Arabic so he could reach Muslims with the gospel. His father wrote him a letter at this time saying he would never have a job in the family business. William Borden wrote once more in his Bible, no retreat. William arrived in Cairo full of anticipation and set to work at once. But within a week he was struck down by spinal meningitis. William James Borden died at the age of 25. There was an outpouring of grief from friends and family. This talented and passionate young guy was struck down in the prime of his life, seeking to do God's will. It seemed such a waste. But that would have not been William's perspective. In the days before he died, he wrote one last phrase, barely legible, no regrets. These 3 words sum up the generous, no going back heart of William Borden. No reserves, no retreat, no regret. William Borden took full advantage of every way he had been made rich in order that he would be generous at every opportunity. William Borden didn't live a long life, but he lived a full life, a life full of grace, full of faith, and full of love for God and others. William gave his absolute best.
And I think about that story of a young man who gave up everything to go on the mission field. And a lot of things happen in life you just don't understand. I mean, he studied Arabic so he could teach the Muslims. Can you think about that today? Matter of fact, it brings chills on me to think about, because I'll just tell you, I've been a missionary in some difficult fields, but I don't know that I'd go to Iran or Iraq or any of those places right now. Would you?
We would definitely have some reserves about it.
But this guy said,
No reserves. No reservations.
no reservations, just go.
All in.
All in. And no retreats. He got there, his dad said, you're not going to have anything, trying to convince him really to come back home. No regrets.
Not backing down.
And, no retreats. And then they said he could barely write it in the Bible, no regrets. 25 years old. He'd only made it over there a week in that mission field. And he dies. But you know what? I think he let it, he wound up with much greater things than he gave up. That's the way our life should be lived, to where we can say, you know what? No reservations over the decisions that I'm making. No retreats. I'm going, and I'm going for the Lord. Paul said, I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. And no regrets. There may be some things this week that you've done that you regret. Maybe. In the kingdom, though, one thing is forgiveness is always in hand. That's one of the things I love about being a Christian is one of the things that we study, that God gives us the power to overcome the things, which is one of the verses that we looked at, Romans 1 verse 16. For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto them that believe, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. It's the power of God unto salvation to all them that believe, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. He gives us the power to live a life with no reservations, no retreats, no regrets. He gives us everything we need. And we talked about that in the book of Romans, where we're talking about. You see, you need to get, and that's one of the reasons we have the camp like we have, is to get your heart in the right place, because your heart will follow your treasure. If things are what you're looking for in life, then that's where you're going to go. For where your heart is, there will your treasure be also. That's what the Bible teaches us. Your heart will follow your treasures. And so you need to figure out what treasure it is that you seek. We watched that video earlier this week where the skull and crossbones come up and it, again, he said, if you're going to live like a pirate, you got to
Die like a pirate.
die like a pirate. Well, as a Christian, amen. If you're going to be a Christian, you need to live like a Christian. You need to be ready to die like a Christian. Of course, this guy didn't he? I just told the story of the parable. The kingdom of heaven is a treasure, like a treasure hidden in a field. You guys this week, I hope as we talked about seeking the right treasure, that you will seek that hidden treasure. This guy sells everything he has. He goes out, he goes and buys his field so he can have a treasure, the most valuable treasure. And then the guy looking for the pearl. You can just picture it. He finds out one thing, he sells everything for that better thing. And that's where our life should be.
Are we willing to sell everything in our earthly life in order to gain that heavenly treasure?
One of the things we talked about was, there's a price to be paid. This guy gave everything to get that field, to buy that field. And so we talked about that. Then we talked about, again, the idea of not being ashamed in Romans 1 verse 16. I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God. The word power there is the word dunamis in the Greek. The word dunamis is the word that we get dynamite. Remember all those explosions we had last night, the fireworks? That's the dunamis, the power, the dynamite of God for salvation. To the Jew person, also to the Greek. Now, I heard a story one time about a guy that went out fishing and he came back and he had a wheelbarrow just loaded with fish. It was just loaded with fish. This guy stopped and said, "Man, where did you get all those fish and how did you catch all those fish?" The guy said, "Nothing to it. So you meet me up here tonight and I'll show you how to do it." Well, they met him. He took him down to the city pond. They got in pushed off a little boat, got out in there, just a paddle boat, got out in the middle there. The guy reached under the seat, pulled out a stick of dynamite, lit it, threw it in the water, boom! Fish just started bubbling to the top. He said, "Man, ain't nothing to it. That's all it is. You just scoop them in." The guy looked at him and he said, "You are in trouble." He said, "Number one, it is illegal to fish in the city pond. Number two, it is illegal to fish anywhere in this state with dynamite. And number three, I am the game warden." The guy reached under his seat, didn't say a word, just pulled out another stick of dynamite and he lit it. And he handed it to the guy. He says, "Are you going to fish? Are you going to talk?" I wonder if the Lord doesn't do that with us. We have a powerful thing called the gospel. And I wonder if every now and again the Lord doesn't look down on us and says, "Guys, are y'all going to fish? Are you going to talk?" Because we're playing with dynamite. The power to do everything we need to get through our life. Because, guys, you're going to have a lot of struggles as you go through life. Some of you going through some struggles now. Some of you have had some, your family situation might not be the best it can be. You might have not the best situation. You might have a family member that has died, or you might have sickness in your family, or you might not live in the best situation. You might have parents that aren't good Christians, and you're trying to battle just to hang on. God gives us the power, he says.
We talked this afternoon in our high school salvation class. We talked about different things that cause us to be unfaithful or hinder us from being faithful. One of those things is those uncontrollable events in our lives, like many of the things that you talked about. And we discussed the different ways that we can stay faithful through those events, like surrounding yourselves with brothers and sisters in Christ, studying the Word and prayer. And it's only through God that we're able to make it through many of those events.
And one of the things about us being here, right here, is the reason that we do this is because y'all need to know that you're not in this by yourself. How many of you made friends from somebody from another congregation while you were here? Anybody? Awesome. Awesome. I've known, in the many, many years that I've been here in camp and doing things, that you make some bonds. Some of them will come back and talk about the people that they met when they were here and all that, and the power that it did for them. I got a note, actually, while we were here, from somebody y'all might remember that came to camp, but I just want to read it to you. She sent it to me while I'm sitting here, and it popped up on my screen. It's here. Y'all remember Mary Alice Williams? Yeah. Well, she sent y'all a note. She wanted me to read it to you. It says, "Sorry I missed camp this week. I'm doing a study away trip in the Hawaiian Islands." Poor girl.
Yeah. I've seen pictures on Facebook.
Yeah. But I wrote out a few thoughts to share with everyone if you want to read it. Hey, it says, "Hey there from Hawaii. Hope everyone has a great and safe week at camp. I wish that I could have been there this week or at least visited. This would have been my 15th year. TCC means so much to me, not only because that beautiful place brings me closer to the youth group, but creates lifelong friendships. But I had some of the best times of my life there and met some of the most incredible people who I'll always be connected with. Most importantly, though, TCC brought me closer to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Without Him, I wouldn't be writing this from Hawaii right now, or have made it through a lot I've encountered through college, and where I am in my life today. I miss y'all, and I'm sorry I missed camp this week, but I sure hope it was one for the record books. Love each and every one of y'all." And then she put Hebrews 12, 28 and 29. You know, you do make those connections that you're talking about that stick with you for a lifetime. And I didn't even tell them I had the text. I mean, it literally popped up while I was sitting up there. We make those connections, and God gives us the power to be able to overcome them. And again, that's what we talked about in this series. And the idea that we're not ashamed of what we are and who we are. You know, for I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God. Guys, you don't hold your heads up high as Christians, because a lot of people are going to tell you that Christianity is just narrow-minded, bigoted people who think they're better than everybody else. Don't be intimidated by them. Someone said, you ought to be afraid to be ashamed and ashamed to be afraid. That comes with the gospel.
Part of being a Christian is standing out, being different from the world, and that is a difficult thing for us to often do. We have to stand strong in our faith. We have to show our friends and our family members and our loved ones what we believe and how we live, and through the way that we live our lives, and the faith and the hope that we have in God.
You know, that's right. You know, we talked about faith cometh by what?
Hearing.
And hearing by what?
Word of God.
My faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. We want to encourage our faith. We want to build it up so that we're not ashamed, so that we got ahead, because He's given us the power. Matthew 10, 32 and 33. Everyone who acknowledges me publicly here on earth, I will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But everyone who denies me here on earth, I will also deny Him before the Father. And then we did dead men tell no tales. Actually, we said dead men do tell tales. Hebrews chapter 6 says, Enoch being dead yet speaks. Why? Because he lives a powerful life in Christ. And so, you know, one of the points is say, what, dead but not bound? You know, we're dead in Christ. We're dying. Paul said there's a dying in my body. Romans chapter 6. Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? What did he say? God forbid. For it said, we are dead to sin. How can we live any longer in it? You know, we died to sin. We're dead men too. We're dead in Christ and alive in Christ. You know, we sing that song, I'm crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet I rise, I Christ that liveth in me, and my life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave Himself for me. Where is that? That's actually Galatians 3:27. It's a good way to memorize the verse, by the way. I'm crucified with Christ. That means I put to death with Christ. But these dead men do tell tales. And you have a mission that God's called you on. And then when we got to that point in the lesson that of course, there's a song, The Pirate's Life for Me. We ended it with A Christian Life for Me. Get into Romans chapter 12 there for us for a little bit.
Romans 12.
Chapter 1 and 2, verse.
Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2 says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect.
I know you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, so what is all that passage talking about? When we talk about that, well, I just kind of just broke those two verses down into just small chunks to try to help us understand that. Number one there at the beginning, it says, present yourselves. Okay, that means we have to show other people. It means we can't live by ourselves. We can't live isolated. I know as great as it is to live here at Taylor Christian Camp, but in order to obey the gospel, go out and teach others to be Christians, we have to show others how to be a Christian. We have to allow others to see Christ in our words and in our actions. Matthew chapter 5, 14 through 16, you're the light of the world. The city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. It's important for us to be able to let others see Christ in us.
Now, Nick, when I think about present, I think of represent.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do. You're presenting yourself to the world to see. Basically, what you're doing is you're saying this is what Christ looks like in the life of a teenager. This is what Christ looks like in a girl that values herself as a jewel in the crown of Christ. This is what a young man looks like, a real gentleman looks like who's a Christian. So you are presenting yourself to Christ as a living sacrifice. You're going to get into in just a minute. But you present yourself. You represent. You know, when I used to tell the girls all the time when I took them to school, remember who you are. And I meant that two ways. I meant that in the sense that when people see you, they look at mom and dad. But more than that, I meant when they look at you, they see Christ. And so when you present yourself to the world, what are they saying? You know, it's a great section of scripture that we're going to. He's got a bunch more on that, by the way.
Okay, then I'll move on to the next little chunk, talking about a living sacrifice. What does a living sacrifice mean? Well, sacrifice is giving something up. And I immediately thought Matthew 16, verse 24, Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. If we're going to be a living sacrifice, we have to be willing to die to ourselves and live for Christ. We have to be able to put our desires, our wants on the back burner and focus on obedience to His Word. We must not be dead, but instead we must be living and taking action for the Lord.
You know, they got to think about that too. You know, it says a living sacrifice. How many of you, if Jesus were to ask you to die for Him, how many would die for Him? Anybody raise your hand? Would you be willing to die for Him? You should. But more than die, but you know what He says? I don't want you to die for Me. I want you to live for Me. I've had people say, I'd die for Christ. Kind of like the guy that says, oh, honey, I love you so much. I'd cross the sea for you. Honey, I love you so much. I would lay down my life for you. And if it doesn't rain tomorrow, I'm going to come see you. You know, that's a lot of us are that way when it comes to church. Oh, yeah, I'm committed to Christ. I want to, you know, and if everything's okay, I'll show up to whatever it is that we're having at church services. Not much of a sacrifice, but living sacrifice.
Being a living sacrifice is making Him priority number one in our lives, not ourselves. What does it mean to be holy? It says here, it says present your body as a living sacrifice, holy. How can we live and have the word holy describe us. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 14, strive for peace with everyone, and for the holiness without which no one will see the Lord. 1 Peter 1, 15 and 16, but as he who was called you is holy, you also be holy in all your conduct. Since it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. We know that God is holy. We should be striving to live a life that represents Him, which is holy.
I mean, giving yourself over to Him. Holy means, set apart for Him. You girls, I keep referring to girls because girls, but guys too. You ought to be thinking. We think about when we get married. If you get older, you think about, who's going to be that guy, who's going to be that girl. You want someone who is going to be wholly given over to you. Holy in the sense that they're set apart to you. You don't want someone who's been passed around everybody and then used kind of for leftovers. God doesn't want that either.
Paul also writes here that we must be holy and acceptable to God. Well, how do we present ourselves as acceptable to God? I went back to the Old Testament and looked in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 18, where the Israelites are told, and it says, and you shall do what is right and do in the sight of the Lord, that it may go well with you, and that you may go in and take possession of the good land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers. To be acceptable, to be viewed as acceptable in God's eyes, is to be found doing His will. John chapter 14, verse 15 states, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. If you're found acceptable by your parents, be doing acceptable things, then you're probably doing what they've asked you to do. You're probably, the actions, the way you live your life, are the things that they've asked you to do. It says, then we go to the do not be conformed to this world. Don't be like this world. We're multiple times told to be different from the world. 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 17. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires, but whoever does the will of God abides forever. And you talk about seeking, what treasures are we seeking? Are we seeking those cars, phones, jobs, different things like that, that we all know they're going to eventually go away? Phones break, cars wear out, we retire from jobs.
Being conformed means pressed into the image of. Have y'all ever played with Play-Doh?
Yes.
You know what you do with Play-Doh? You ever done where you had the little cookie cutter type thing, you cut out the little Play-Doh images? That's what he's talking about. Don't let the world make you into the image that they want you to make you into, because the world will do that. If you don't decide who you are and what you want to be, the world's more than glad to tell you what you need to be. Simply won't be the good thing. And he said, don't be conformed to the images the world would have you to be. Don't be conformed into that. Some of you you got to be careful, because you're so easy to see what's popular and say, you know what, and you're jumping on that bandwagon and be just like everybody else. One of my favorite memories here at camp was last couple of years ago. We had a young man that was here. He had some of the wildest tales that we've ever heard. He was a cage fighter. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Y'all remember him too?
Y'all remember? That was somebody, but the thing about it was, he had some of you guys hook, line, and sinker. But the thing that got, hey, but there was some of you just tenderhearted, and I appreciate that. That's what I love about it. Poor old Jeff was donating $20. He was one of the first ones, because he was making his living cage dying and all this. But anyway, but the thing that stuck out in my mind was one of the cabins. Was they were all sitting on the front porch and they were carrying on, crying and everything. Then I went in the cabin and there was one young man sitting in his bed and he was mad. Dylan Hollis Brooks was sitting there. He was sitting there with his arms crossed. And I said, Dylan, what is going on? He says, they'll just believe anything. They think I'm just being mean. They think I'm mean and that boy's story ain't true. That ain't true. And he was right. But the thing that stuck out in my mind was the courage of one man in that cabin to stand up and say, you know what, this isn't right, guys. And came into the peer pressure. I mean, it would have been easy for Dylan to just got out there and say, oh gosh, you're so right. And this is so good. This guy, we got to get him back in the cage again. You know. But I thought, how long did you live, Dylan? 9 or 10 years old, and he was still willing to take a stand, even if it meant all of his friends forsook him. And they did. They did. He was there by himself. They all forsook him. But who was right, Dylan? You. Even the adults didn't get it. But Dylan, I think that took a lot of courage to not be conformed to what everybody else was thinking. Go ahead.
And that's what we are. It's a perfect example of what we're to be like in this world. It's not just a follow the crowd. It's not just a do the popular trend. It's to be different. It's to live the life of Christ. Which, if we look out in the world today, that's not what the world is living. We're not to be conformed, but Paul goes on to say, very next thing, but be transformed. Transform, I want to think of a change. Be different. Okay? And as soon as I read that, I went immediately to the conversion of Paul. We're introduced to Saul in the New Testament in the book of Acts. What is he doing? He's basically standing and watching a Christian be stoned to death because he was preaching and teaching the words of Christ. We immediately see in Acts chapter 8, we see that Saul approved the execution, and there arose a great persecution. It says, but Saul in verse 3 was ravaging the church, entering house after house. He dragged off men and women and committed them to prison. But we see very shortly after that, in Acts chapter 9, we see Saul literally see the light of the gospel. Ananias comes and teaches him. And it says in verse 18, and immediately something like scales fell from his eyes. He regained his sight, and he arose and was baptized. He changed from leader of the persecutors of the Christians to becoming one of the greatest missionaries, one of the greatest church leaders of that first century church.
Most of our New Testament was written by Paul.
He was transformed. It was a major transformation from Saul to Paul.
As a matter of fact, the word transformed there is the Greek word metamorphi, which we get the word metamorphosis, which we get from a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. You know, it goes through that Christmas stage where it goes through what's called metamorphosis, where it changes from a caterpillar to beautiful butterflies. By the way, later on in this, it talks about the testing that you have, the trials that you have. There's a metamorphosis that takes place when you're a Christian. And we had 2 that were baptized this week. Also awesome. There needs to be, a change in you, though. It's not just going down in the water and being changed. He says, matter of fact, in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, he says that when we were baptized, they were transformed into the image of Christ. There needs to be a metamorphosis take place from that worm, that sinner, that awful-looking thing, into a beautiful butterfly, a Christian. That's the metamorphosis that should take place. If you're calling yourself a Christian, but your life hasn't changed, you're just calling yourself a Christian. There needs to be a transformation that takes place. That like you said, really be holy and do those type of things. That has to take place. And it's going to take place if you do the next thing you got on there.
Next thing ahead is the renewal of your mind. When you have that transformation, it's a renewal of our mind. It's a new way of thinking. It's a new attitude that we must have. It's going from that sinner state to focusing that life on Christ. And how do we do that? Colossians 3:2. Set your minds on things that are above and not things that are on earth. We must have that focus of heavenly things. Our focus must continually be on God. I asked the high school class this afternoon, why is it, do you think, that adults, faithful Christian adults in your life, encourage you to attend Taylor Christian Camp, weekly worship service, Bible classes, service projects, youth devotionals, events like Horizons and other things like that? It's so that you will continue to keep your focus on God. And if we have our mind focused on God, then our actions, we will see that in our actions. Must be focused on those things that are above. And you mentioned Matthew 6:33, seeking first the kingdom of God and His righteousness in our lives earlier.
That renewal of your mind, it's a change of mind, but it's also, in 2 Peter chapter 1, Peter says, I'm going to remind you these things that you already know that are already established in the present truth. In other words, what he's saying is, the reason we come together is we need to remind each other of who we are and whose we are and why we're doing what we do. And so when we gather together like this, that's what we do. And you maybe this week may have reminded you that, you know what, I haven't been living the life that I ought to. I've seen in some other people. And I have, by the way, seen in some of you people, some of you young people, I've seen you show us what Christ looks like. In the way you treated some of the younger ones, in the way you responded. I saw one of the young people get on to one of the other young people for fussing about something that was going on campus. Said, you need to change your attitude. Tell them that you need to think more like Christ. Well, we need to be told that from now and then, don't we?
We do. Sometimes we need that reality punch to the gut and refocus. And all. And sometimes, I guess that comes with the next part there where it says that by testing, you may discern what is the will of God. Sometimes we're tested. Sometimes we go through different tests in our lives. James chapter 1, 2-4 says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. It's only through testing that we grow stronger in our faith.
I mentioned that metamorphosis. There was a story of a man that found a chrysalis of a beautiful monarch butterfly. I don't know if y'all know what a monarch, but beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful. They will fly all the way down to Mexico every year. And beautiful butterfly. They found it, and he saw the chrysalis, and he saw the transformation take place, and the struggle that was going on within that cocoon for that butterfly to escape. And so he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to help that butterfly out a little bit. So he takes his little penknife out, and he slits the cocoon, and the butterfly emerged out. Its wings all wrinkled, and it stayed there for a little bit, and believe it or not, it died. And what he discovered was that struggling within the cocoon to escape the cocoon actually developed the strength within the wings of the butterfly, developed it to the point to where the butterfly could be who it was needed to be. And so, God intended for us to go through struggles so that we can be who we're intended to be, so that that transformation can be complete, so the metamorphosis can take place. And so, what do you say, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations or different trials? Because they do make us stronger. Sometimes I've seen Christians. I remember when I was in Russia, we had a Christian, and he went through a lot of persecution, but he never did understand the persecution there. A guy attacked him one time on a metro line and hit him over the head with the Bible. Didn't knock him out. Instead, he turned around and said, "Why are you doing this to me? I'm a Christian." But struggles is a part of our life. Sometimes it's for righteousness' sake. Sometimes it's just, because we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes it's because we've done evil in our lives. But if we will use the trials in our lives, it'll make us stronger to make us better people. And so he says, you sacrifice, you give yourself over to God, you die to yourself, you become a living sacrifice, you lay on the altar, you give yourself over to God, you go through that renewal, changing of your mind, and that metamorphosis, and trials have come, and then what?
Discern what is the will of God. And what is the will of God for us humans here on earth? 1 Timothy 2, chapter 2, verse 3 through 4. This is good, and it is pleasing in the sight of our God, our Savior, who desires all people to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. God's desire is not to punish His own creation. His desire is us to be obedient, every one of us to be obedient to His Word, so that we are saved and that we come to that knowledge of the truth. He wants us to have a relationship with Him. He desires for us to know Him and to live for Him.
So this week, we've looked at this theme that we've had, and we've seen that world's end is close. We've looked at the book of Romans. By the way, you would do well to go through the book of Romans, look at some of the things, and one of the things that we struggle with is like Paul struggled with in Romans chapter 8, where he says, and I love this section there, Acts chapter 7, verse 18, he says, "For I know that in me that is in the flesh dwelleth nothing good." No good thing. Then he says, "For the good that I would, I do not." Thank you. "And the evil which I would not, that I do. Now, if I do that I would not, it is not more that I do it, but sin that dwelleth in me. I find then the law that when I would do good, evil is present with me. For I delight in the law of God after the inward man. But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of the mind, and bringing me into captivity into the law of sin, which is in my members." And man, you remember that story I told you? Oh, that's where he gets to that point that I told you the other day. "Oh, wretched man that I am. Who shall deliver me from that body of sin?" In the book of Romans, he tells us, there's a battle going on within me, and it's going on within every one of us. The things that I want to do, I don't do. The things I should do, I leave undone. And then sometimes I do the right thing, but I do it the wrong way. Paul says there's a battle going on all the time. But isn't it great that God gives us the victory? He tells us what gives us the ability to overcome that inner man that's fighting us is the fact that, again in the book of Romans chapter 5, "For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet peradventure for a good man some would even dare to die. But God commended His love towards us, and that while we were yet sinners, He died for us." Why is that? He says, "Much more than being justified by His blood, we shall be saved from the wrath through Him." One of the great things, that we're dead men, dead in our sins, but we can be buried with Christ. We can go through that metamorphosis, that transformation. We can give ourselves as a living sacrifice, and God will save us. God will give us a treasure that's beyond our imagination. Matter of fact, He says in verse 13 there, chapter 5, that sin will not be imputed against us. In other words, it won't be counted against us. And then He says, but where sin abounds, grace will be even more. But then He gets into that chapter of Romans 6 where He says, "Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid." God will give us everything we need. And then He talks about that so many of us were baptized into Christ. We're baptized in His death. Death is here. skull and crossbones. But you can be dead, yet still speaking. By living the life that God has called you to. I hope you'll go through the book of Romans the rest of the week as you go home and go back, maybe go over some of these things. Go over some of there's a lot of riches in Romans. God wants you to be His. He's done everything He can to get you there. One of the verses there in Romans chapter 6 that I love, that He says, you know, that if we're dead, we're free from sin. If we die for Christ. Now, if we be dead with Christ, we believe we shall also live with Him. Some of you maybe need to obey the gospel. I don't know. There's some of you here tonight that might need to be baptized. Maybe you've been thinking about it. Maybe you've thought about it. Or maybe some of you have just forgotten who you are or who you are. It's real easy. Thursday, you know, have you ever noticed Thursday's always conflict day? I'm glad that it rained today because it cooled it down a little bit. If it had been hot today, we'd have probably had a fight today. Because some of y'all got the brewing just a little bit during the week.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And that's, you know, it's normal. When you get this many people together in a different place. But sometimes we need to be reminded who we are and whose we are. You know, sometimes we mutiny. You know what mutiny is? In pirate language, you know, mutiny, what does that mean? Anybody? Insubordination. What is insubordination? Overthrowing the leaders. It means taking over. Sometimes you try to take over for God. You say, I know that God wants me to do this, but I'm going to do this, and you mutiny. You rebel. Of course, the good thing about our captain is he'll forgive you if you return. Now, the captains in the old days, if you mutiny, that was sudden death. That was being thrown overboard. That was hung on the yard arm. That was walking the plank. That was not a good going down to Davy Jones' locker. I mean, that was all those kind of things. That you would have it would be the end. But one of the things that I love about Christ, He says, first of all, if we say we do not sin, we're lying, the truth not in us. All of us have that capability, and all of us do. But He says, if we walk in the light as He is in the light, we have fellowship one with another, and the blood of His dear Son continually cleanses us for our sins. And again, you know, mutiny's easy. Mutiny's sin. That's when we decide to do what we want to do rather than what God wants to do. Kevin, one mutiny on me today. You know, that's okay. We do that. But the thing is we need to recognize when we've gone away from God. Recognize when we aren't showing who we really are supposed to be. When we get in the problem that Paul faced in Romans chapter 7 there, when he says, I'm struggling here, this battle. All of us do. All of us do. Young people, just because you're tempted, and just, you know, tempting is not sin, by the way. Being tempted is not sin. It's getting into the temptation of sin. But when you think, oh my goodness. Matter of fact, I heard a story one time of a guy that, and I've told the story at church a few times, but this slave, and he had an owner, and this slave was a Christian, the owner wasn't. And they were out duck hunting. And the owner was not a Christian at all, and he just thought it was so weird that the guy was a Christian. And he said, you know, you just talk about how, you know, you're a Christian and all this, and how you're tempted all the time, and the devil's always trying to get you, and he is. You're all the time talking about that. And here I am, I'm not even a Christian, and I don't have any problem with that. What do you think about that? Well, the slave looked over his owner and says, well, master, let me ask you a question. We're out here duck hunting. If we were to shoot 2 ducks, 2 of them fall in the water. One of them just falls dead in the water. The other one falls in the water and he's flopping around. He says, which one do we go after first? He said, well, we go after the one that's flopping around in the water. He said, that's right. He said, the devil knows you as a dead duck. Just because the devil's after you doesn't mean that you are not what you ought to be. It means that he knows you are what you be, and he's trying to get you away from it. That he knows you are not a dead duck. You know, he'll leave the guy alone that's already given to him. You don't have to worry about him, he's got it. But you who are Christians, the devil's always going to be after you. He's always going to be tempting you. He's always going to be trying to get you. You're going to have those struggles that Paul has. But you can get right. And if you're here tonight, maybe you need prayers. Maybe you need to become a Christian. Maybe you need to confess your faith in Christ. Maybe you've done sin. Maybe you've sinned publicly. If you publicly sinned, you need to repent publicly. Whatever your need is, so you need to make it right, and you need to live that transformed life. You need to live as living sacrifices. We want to help you do that. We love y'all too much to let you not. Remember Mr. Borden? Man, he gave up everything. And he died for it. But you know, I can imagine, you know, what did he say? No regrets. What was it?
No reserves.
No reserves.
No retreat.
No regrets. No regrets. What would you like to have it on your tombstone? No reservations. I've given myself over to God.
No going back.
No going back. No regrets. Man, I can't think of a better life to live than Christ's life. Never going back. Nick, you got anything? Listen, tonight if we can help you guys, we want to help. That's what we're here for. If we get up in any way, we want you to come. As we stand, we all